Police Minister Bheki Cele has visited kwaMajola following increasing incidents of arson and murders in some Eastern Cape villages. Officials discussed problems faced by communities as part of efforts to find lasting solutions to crime. ActionSA Eastern Cape leader Athol Trollip joins us now for more on that. Good to have you, and thank you very much for your time tonight here on News at Prime. Was this a meaningful engagement with the hope of some fruitful outcome, or just a mere PR exercise?
Well, only the future will tell us whether there was any meaningful engagement. What we have seen with Minister Bheki Cele, whenever there's an incident, he arrives and makes some sorts of promises and commitments and then disappears, and nothing really happens. We look at Senzo Meiua's murder case. It's nearly 9 years now, and there have been no arrests. Godrich Godi's daughter as well, more than a year ago. The minister arrived on the scene, made a big fanfare, nothing happened. And with these incidences here in the former Transkei, in the Port St. John's area, they're like perennial. They happen every single year. There are these murders. There are mass murders. There are reprisal attacks. We don't know whether it's stock theft related or what the real cause is, but every single year there are murders, mass murders. And Bheki Cele arrives now making a big fanfare about it. We don't want fanfare. We just want people to be arrested. And the big issue in the Eastern Cape is that poverty in the rural areas has become so endemic that, there are new dynamics here in the rural areas. For years when I worked here in the past, you'd go into deep rural communities. There were pictures of pastoral peace, and people would be very happy other than for the fact that their roads are impassable, they have no service delivery, and unemployment's a big challenge. But now you go into those communities, and all of a sudden, drugs are a big issue, violent crime is a big issue, gender-based violence is a big issue. So their lives have been compromised fundamentally now. Not only the traditional historical challenges of living in a deep rural area, there are now new dynamics of violent crime, gender-based crime, and drugs.
Yeah. So the minister seemingly engaging traditional leaders as well as community leaders on either side to better understand the conflict. Are they in any way involved, those particular players in this conflict?
I can't say whether they're involved or not, but the irony is that in the Eastern Cape, I was last week handing over a petition to Premier Oscar Mabuyane at the office of the Premier, and across the road at my back was the House of Traditional Leaders. Now, there's a dichotomy there because these murders take place in rural traditional communities, and the minister's arriving now to have interactions with the traditional leaders as if this is a last resort. It should be the first resort. It should be the first port of call. Traditional leaders know who are in their communities. Historically, when communities brought strange people into the community, they always took them to the traditional leader, introduced them and said, these people are coming to work for me, they're building a house, whatever, so that the traditional leaders know who's in the community. Nowadays, there's no such respect. People just come and go as they please, especially drug peddlers and all sorts of other violent criminals. So the problem is that crime is out of control in rural areas in the Eastern Cape. So much so that the Eastern Cape has now become, the murder capital of the world, with New Brighton taking over from Umtata. And it's a real crying shame, actually.
Yeah. They're saying these engagements are with the hope of coming up with and implement rather a multi-pronged and long-lasting solution to crime. Just words in a press release, really. What do they really mean? What is a multi-pronged, long-lasting solution?
Well, I'm afraid there's absolutely no credibility with that kind of statement and that kind of a commitment. People have lost all trust in the police and certainly in the police minister. If he could just hold up one example of where they've solved the crime issue or a criminality issue in an area, then we might have had some reference or a framework. There is no reference of success. Bheki Cele has been an abject failure. The crime statistics keep rising under his stewardship as a minister, and I don't believe he's fit to be the minister. And the sooner Cyril Ramaphosa gets rid of Bheki Cele as the minister, we can start doing something to turn around the crime statistics in this country.
It does seem one of the things that they're going to be establishing here is a task team, as we normally do around these situations, to conduct investigations into the deadly crimes against the people of Majola. Another task team to be established.
Well, if this task team had been established last year or the year before, it would have more credibility. This incident didn't just happen this year. These incidents happen every single year. As I said, they are perennial in this part of the world. And why is Bheki Cele waking up now? Is it a TV stunt? Is it an election stunt? And I believe that there's absolutely no credibility to any of his commitments. So the people in the Eastern Cape no longer believe the SAPS or the minister.
And if we were, Athol, to come up with a lasting solution to the challenges of Port St. John, what would it look like and where must it start?
Well, first of all, I think it definitely is linked to unemployment. It's a historical phenomenon when people are unemployed and poverty is pervasive, that criminality escalates. As more and more people get into jobs, criminality reduces. So we have to do something about creating more jobs in the rural areas. And recently, Premier of the Eastern Cape, Oscar Mabuyane, made a public admission before their last provincial conference to say that the ANC had let the people of the rural areas of the Eastern Cape down. He said, in fact, if you cross the Kai River into the former Transkei, there's very little commercial development that has taken place in the last 30 years. And I think therein lies the cause for these escalating criminal activities in former peaceful community.
Athol Trollip, I appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming on ActionSA Eastern Cape leader there, Athol Trollip.